Promise I wasn't gonna steal it.
Falling all over the place.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, you can start it whenever. Start it whenever. Did you start it already?
yeah.
So Scott stole the intro. Excellent. Excellent. So let's get our introduction out the way. This is the Happiness Podcast Project. I am Grover Reese of Guerrilla Combatives.
And I am Scotty of Org Unity.
And we have a super special guest with us today. So I'm going to let the gentleman introduce himself.
My name's Harinder Singh, or Sifu Singh, from the Jeet Athletics Association.
Excellent. So in typical Grover fashion, I had no idea how to properly pronounce your first name. And it's so I was like, Harinder? Surrender? So I didn't know what to say, right? So I've been calling you Sir and Sifu Singh.
Yeah, that's what everybody normally calls me. Much easier.
Trying to be respectful, but for the record, how do I pronounce your first, middle, last name?
It's pretty good. Harinder. Harinder Singh Sabharwal is my full name.
Harinder Singh Sabharwal.
But everybody calls me Sifu Singh.
Sifu Singh, yes. Yeah. I met you at the Legacy 6 project.
What's Legacy 6?
Yes.
Legacy 6 is an event put on by Grandmaster Darren Tabone from Angel's Disciples, Sarada Eskrima, and Masters Magazine. And then what it's designed to do is honor the Grandmasters of Filipino martial arts and promote the culture. And so we have people that come from all different styles and systems of the Filipino martial arts to promote awareness and to pretty much honor our teachers and the legacy where it came from. But this was a very special one that was dedicated, everybody dedicated their time because they wanted to raise funds for the congressional medals to be given to members of families of Filipino warriors that had taken part in the world wars.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
It's like a non-profit charity.
It was a special event.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And everybody who was there, you could just tell it was grandmasters. It was high-level martial arts. And I believe Sifu Singh closed the show.
Oh, no, not at all, man.
Is it on YouTube, by the way? Or anything?
I believe there's going to be a DVD released of
The
it.
DVD has already been released. You can go to Masters Magazine or
Masters
mastersmag.com and you can get it there. And it's really cool because you get a chance to see masters of their craft of so many different arts and representing the culture and really preserving it to go forward. Not only honoring the legacy, but preserving it to go forward. And it's for a really good cause. You know?
I was presenting what I was a Guru Rajak Bulos' Uke, or training partner. I was one of them, and Hal Campbell was the other one. And I was fortunate enough. I snuck over. I got to speak to Sifu Singh, and I got to point this out. And of course I told Sifu Singh before because the reason why I really wanted to speak to Sifu Singh was. The biggest thing is a lot of people, they look at someone and say, oh, this person's just so talented. I don't think people see the hard work that it takes to get yourself to a point to just, not just physically, but mentally. And we've been speaking
and emotionally, too,
We've been speaking about all assets of the game this morning. We had a great conversation off camera, which is so funny. I was like, man, we should be recording this.
I got it on my vlog, so check out Org Unity.
Self-promotion. But the craziest thing is everybody was presenting. And I actually had to leave because I was going for our photo shoot for the podcast. And I'm going to the elevator, and I see Sifu Singh and a gentleman he was with, somebody who trains under him, working their asses off. They're in the hallway, sweating through a T-shirt, and just dripping sweat. And I looked at him, I said, oh. And the light comes on, I'm like, that's the real deal. That's somebody who's working super hard. I don't know if I looked at it as like, okay, he's getting his mind right. He's getting his body right. He's getting everything lined up. That's how I look at things when you do that workout before presenting. But
I would like to add on, since we're having this conversation, is that there's a lot of mental training too and emotional training. Just having a conversation, the vibes that you're giving off is very centered, calm, composed, collected. Yeah. And usually when I speak with martial artists or people that are in any kind of fight training, there's a little bit more bravado. But with you, it's more of the bravado is there, but it's more of this composed, powerful energy instead of trying to show out.
Oh, then I tricked you pretty good.
That's an excellent job. And what are you saying about me? Because I'm the martial artist you hang out with. Are you saying I'm bravado?
Egocentric.
Jesus. So about the podcast. Just to let you know, and I always say it on camera, you can say whatever you want. You can talk about whatever you want. We're here to have a conversation. Conversation goes where the conversation goes. You're free to just speak your mind. And I'm not throwing any gotcha questions out. I'm just going to ask, background and stuff like that. I just want to have a conversation with you, let the world get to know you. And I also want to get to know you better. First of all, we're in your beautiful house.
Training studio, too.
I'm not going to give out the city or location, but it is bomb. You're going to look at the scenery, and people are going to say, why don't you film there all the time? You have that back. Well, I can't come here all the time. I was invited into this man's house, and the hospitality has been wonderful. Met his wonderful family, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you
very
much.
Humble.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody listening to join in. It's always an honor.
Yeah. So I want to get into some of your background.
Sure.
And I want to segment away from martial arts training, and I want to talk about, I'm sure you always weren't a martial artist, or doing speaking engagements about martial arts or motivation to make your living. So was there a life before this, and could you talk about it if there was?
Yeah. Well, martial arts, I started very young when I was 6 years old. From 6 to 19, I was doing karate quite heavily. Washington Ryu at the University of Toronto, Academy of Karate and Judo. And then I came to the United States on a tennis scholarship. I went to UC Davis, and I did my computer and electrical engineering degree, right? And then I worked in the Bay Area for about 8.5 years. First as an advanced applications engineer, and then after that in business intelligence and strategic marketing for a company called Xilinx, which is one of the. Pretty much, I bet you that the chip is in one of your phones or smart devices. The chip is probably in there. And, that was a big part of my life. But martial arts has always been there. I think that, as I mentioned to you earlier, I went through a few different situations in my life that really brought me back to it. I think that when I was younger, martial arts kept me grounded and focused. I lost my hair to alopecia areata when I was 13 years old. So you can imagine going into your freshman year in high school, right? And you lose your hair,
wow. Okay.
And at that time, The Rock wasn't around, or there wasn't any light-skinned people who were bald to look up to. So I went backwards and looked at Yul Brynner. Remember him from Magnificent Seven? It's well, he's cool. He's kind of gangster, but and then you go through this idea of everything happens to you for a reason. At that time, you're just like, oh my God, why is this happening? I'd do anything for this to go away, and you go through all those things. But martial arts, even at that point, I remember when my thoughts would get too crazy or whatever, I would sit and I would do sanshin. I would breathe. I would just always breathe, and then it would get me past that moment to focus on school or to focus on athletics and stuff. I played tennis quite heavily. Like I mentioned earlier, I had a scholarship to play tennis at the University of California, Davis, which was amazing. And so martial arts was always there with me. And then I took a little break while I'm in college, having a good time like everybody does in college. I had a great time in college, that's for sure. And I'm sure you all know what I mean by that. I had a very good time. It took 5 full years to graduate. So
I'm just being quiet because I don't want to get involved in your conversation, but I was wild in college.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's what it's designed for. You make it out of there. You're like, oh, how did that happen? But it was an amazing time. And then when I was getting ready to graduate, around just a year before I graduated in 2001, we went to a bonfire celebration in Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and wrong place, wrong time kind of scenario.
Right.
And there was about 5 of us there. We were the last 2 cars to arrive. And if you've been to Ocean Beach there's a big parking lot. And then from the parking lot, you walk down to the beach where the bonfire was going. There was about 100 people there. But we were the last 2 cars, 5 of us. And then like a movie, out of the darkness, that goes to show how low your attention and awareness was at that time. And, 25 local gangsters just showed up, and they were looking for somebody. And, that reminds me of a saying that we're talking about Professor James Hunden, something he said to me. He said, bad things happen to you when you're having a good time and you least expect it, right? And when your guard is down.
Yeah.
And, you just finished exams and you passed them, and you hoped you passed them, and you're getting on to the next level and whatever. And you want to let loose and have fun. And so we were surprised, you know. And so they were looking for somebody. My roommate looked like the guy they were looking for, and then before you know it, all chaos breaks loose.
Wow.
And you're in a struggle for life and death, you know. And I didn't do anything heroic. I got my ass kicked 6 ways to Sunday, and it was divine intervention that kind of saved us. The guys they were looking for happened to walk by.
No way.
Right? They happened to walk by, and then those guys recognized them, and they just swarmed from us onto them.
Wow.
And that's how we were saved,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And this was in June of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being a martial artist, and been in street fights before, one-on-one and stuff like that, but this was crazy. You know, it was like they were on something. They weren't, life and death was not like an issue of hurting somebody or not. You were not in a dojo sparring.
Right.
This was weapons, mass attack, crazy situation.
Put it bluntly, you were jumped.
Pretty much, you know. And a couple things with that, though. I remember so clearly, like, having my first Matrix moment. The thing was, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But time slowed down. Like, everything was going so slow. And your adrenaline kicks in and your fight or flight response kicks in at that time. And that's the first time I really experienced it to that level, where you have to make the decision to fight or to flight. So you had to make the decision actively, I'm going to stay, that's my brother, or I'm going to run. So that's the first decision. So you make that decision. And then I remember just being chased around the parking lot. It's not like a kung fu movie. They all circle you and come one at a time, right? It looked more like a wild rugby game going on in between cars, people chasing people, swinging at people, and just all chaos. And but I remember that everything slowed down, everything's still, and it was like this moment of peace in this chaos. And it's the first time I had ever experienced such a moment. I call it the zone. You were in the high performance zone.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what to do. So then after that event, I was very angry. You know, I was very pissed off. I was very ashamed. I was like, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, my whole bravado, the macho side of me was like, oh man, I'm a bit of a pussy. You know, like, I can't believe this happened. And you're just kind of running through this. And then you're running like Rambo scenarios in your head. You're like, man, next I would approach them from the beach with AK-47s and guns. Like, these kinds of things are going on in your head, right? I'll be dead honest. And then so that's happening. And then in August 13th of the same year, I was in San Francisco, Sansom and Sacramento, and as I'm driving down the road, I'm going to visit a friend. A cab runs a light and straight T-bones me. And I was in a 1994 Honda Civic, slammed to the ground, and I just got smashed, T-boned.
I want to ask you one question.
Yeah.
Did you have the system? Did you have beat
Of course.
in the back? Right. Hey, represent for the culture. Keep telling the story, man.
Of course, man. Tinted windows, the whole deal, man. I had my rocket. The beats was the most important piece there. You know, even though my faceplate came off, but the accident happened so badly that I couldn't take the faceplate off.
Wow.
It was crumpled in that side. So if somebody was in the passenger side, they would have been pretty messed up.
Yeah.
But the thing was that was, again, so these events, the reason I'm sharing them for you, because they totally changed my life perspective. Because as we all know, the tragic events of September 11, 2001. That summer, I was interning for Franklin Templeton Investments in San Mateo or Foster City, and my reward was to go to spend a week in Manhattan. Right, as a college kid, all expenses paid. You're like, that's like Disneyland, right, at that time. So the car accident happened. I missed 3 weeks of work. And you know, I wake up that morning and I see it on the TV, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And, you know, we lost 140 people in the company because we were on the 92nd floor of World Trade Center, building number 2. And I was working in the e-business global group that was in charge of the NASDAQ feeds coming in. So I would have been there at 8 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. That's for sure.
Wow.
And so these events, from these 3 things that happened to me that summer, really changed the trajectory of my life. One, from a perspective of, martial arts, let's get in to try to solve this problem. Right? And then the other one, asking the existential question, is my real motivation, which was sports cars, houses, and .com boom, is that really the important stuff?
Yeah, it changed your entire life perspective.
It totally changed.
And I mean, I always, whenever I think of 9/11, I think of going to Brooklyn in the late 90s and seeing Manhattan, seeing how the skyline's changed now, and just all of those souls lost. It's just tragic. But it's also, it blows my mind every time, the ripple effect and how many people are affected by it.
Yeah.
And you're one of the first people I've met that's affected by not being there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like you said, it opened your eyes to like what life was in store.
Yeah, I started asking the question then, hey, what is it I like? What is it I want to do?
Yeah,
I was studying engineering because like I'm going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I didn't like computers at all. I hated it. I was just like, I'm just going to do it because I'll be successful and make a lot of money and buy a sports car and get stock options. And that was my drive.
Which is a powerful motivation for a young man, by the way. It's a powerful motivation for a young man. But that event made you say, is that going to make you happy or not?
Yeah. And from there, that one question. And now I'm here. I'm still asking the question.
Yeah.
But at least I'm exercising, you know, what it is. Like, so to leave then a career where you're making six figures and you're rocking it in your late 20s.
Right.
To go over to teach martial arts full time. Most people would never have supported such an action.
People would be like, what?
This is kind of crazy.
What did your family think about that?
Well, my wife was the reason I did it.
Yeah.
She was the one that saw that, hey, man, you know, I think that's one of the greatest weapon that I have in my arsenal. You know, what's the opposite of kryptonite? What's that called?
The sun.
You know, whatever. Yeah, well, that's my wife. She's the opposite of kryptonite. And interestingly, her name's Anshu, which means the rays of the sun. So,
well, that was one of the most awesome unintentional segues I've ever had in my life.
yeah. It's she saw it first, you know, and she's like, hey, when you do that, you light up, and you light up totally differently,
and that's great. You had someone close to you, very close to you, supporting you.
I wouldn't have been able to. I didn't see it before she saw it years before I saw it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't. I just enjoyed doing it. I'm like,
So on the car ride here, I said, you know, the most people that tell you that you can't do something are the people you love the most, and it really hurts when you have to disappoint them. And I mean, I think that's awesome that you had somebody that you love the most in your life that you could would actually tell you, no, you go do this, because that support structure. Most people pursue their happiness by themselves. That's the biggest secret. Is like it's a lonely journey at times to do something that's going to fulfill you inside, especially leaving a high powered job.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's where it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it's an illusion, right?
Yeah.
So it's an illusion. You have everything, and you don't want to wake up and go to work. Something's wrong.
Right. Right. When you wake up and go do something, you're like, oh man, I would really like the money I'm getting, but I hate how I'm getting the money. That's a problem.
Yeah. And so then, you know, I kept training. I kept sticking to it, and
your philosophy got deeper because now you're able to.
My philosophy got deeper, and the funny story there is, in my new book, Mindboxing.
Mindboxing, and when is that coming out?
We're on the 5th rewrite right now, so I think it'll be out by April.
April next year.
Yeah,
Mindboxing.
2019.
So you better pick it up.
Yeah. We're gonna do a book review for sure.
Yeah, we'll have fun.
Yeah. Scott's gonna do a book review. I'm gonna act like I read it and read it.
You could just listen to some of my talks and you'll get the close notes.
You gonna have an audiobook?
I will have an audiobook, but you know, I have a bunch of interviews with Jack Canfield and stuff already online. Right. That if you're ever interested, you can go listen to him. I've given a TED talk and stuff.
Definitely.
So it gives you the gist.
If my pre-production wasn't trash, I would have did it already. But I actually put away my laptop and I was like, I'm just gonna come and talk to you.
Yeah, it's all about the flow, right?
You
get to really meet people and enjoy. Yeah. That's what I enjoy, man. I spend most of my time by myself. Yeah. Right, so I'm just training or working on my business, and then if I'm not doing that, then I'm hanging out with my family.
That's dope.
That's my life.
I think this is the longest hangout we've had before we started the camera.
Yeah, because usually, full disclosure, we come in, we're like, all right, let's get this going. Let's get this knocked out. And, like I've done, because you usually exhaust yourself doing research on a person, even though I act like I don't. And then you sit there and you talk, and the conversation kind of goes the way you expect it to, because you've done enough research to know what the person's going to talk about. And then you don't. So I was actually doing my research before, just talking to you and just kind of figuring out who you were.
Me too.
And here's one thing. Oh, you're a research. Cool. I'll be on your podcast. Here's one thing that I really appreciate that I didn't understand. There's a layer of, if you want to call it spirituality, but there's a deep layer there that I wasn't expecting. You know, I mean, I seen some of the things that you were centered, and I said, well, he's a centered guy. When I talked to you, I felt like this fly loves me, but I felt like that you were going to have something, but I didn't think it was going to be that deep as an understanding of who you really were. Well, yeah, and that's probably why you're successful.
I think that's the number one question everybody has to ask. And that's actually the first chapter in my book is, who are you? Right? So as General Sun Tzu says, know yourself, know your enemy.
Right.
You're sure to succeed. Know yourself, don't know your enemy 50-50. Don't know yourself, don't know the enemy, you're doomed to fail.
See, girl, when I mentioned the art of war, this is what I meant.
Yeah.
Not about beating someone into submission. The philosophy.
Well, you know.
Even though it was used as a martial.
Well,
right.
Yeah, I mean, like it's in you know, even the art of fighting without fighting. Most fights can be won without actually fighting. You want their resources. If you beat them, then you're losing your own resources, right? So,
right.
But I think that the most important question, you look at martial arts for me, is a journey of self-discovery. It's a journey to discover the cause of your own ignorance. That's what it's about, and constantly doing that, hacking away at the layers to say, okay, this is what I think. Why do I think this way? What are the limitations that I've been placing on myself? What are the stories I've been telling myself? What are the stories everybody else has told me? And can I honestly express myself? You can't honestly express yourself if you're limited by the stories, you're limited by your past, you're limited by the experiences that you've had, or the experiences that other people have had. Everybody tells you things from the experiences they've had, so now there's a box. But that's all good. That's a good learning curve, I guess, but it's a limited one. And for us to get beyond that and get to like a state of, you know, knowing without knowing, we all have this inherent ability, but you have to work on it. You have to peel away the layers. You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, who are you really? And accept and love that. Your strengths, your weaknesses, how you've dealt with opportunities, how you deal with threats. That's who you are, right? So oftentimes you look at who are you, some people might look at it as like a very hippie kind of a question, like who are you? Well, if you don't know who you are, that kind of thing. Right. But there's a real way to figure that out. The SEALs do it. It's called SWOT. SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Right. So you start to analyze, what are your strengths? So what are your attributes? And then from there, look at when you won and study when you win. Study when you win. Who were you around? How were you feeling? What was the atmosphere? What were you doing? Write all that down. That's data. Then take a look at your weaknesses. Okay, when you were losing, what was the environment? What were you doing? Were you by yourself? Were you in a team? What were you saying to yourself when you were losing? There's data.
It's literally analytics, but through intrapersonal communication.
Absolutely. Right? It's energetic psychology, right? But you're really getting the data down. So once the data's down, you can form the battlefield. And once you form the battlefield, then you can actually take action.
So what I like about that segue is that when you say something that like maybe to our average listener may go over their head, you know, but then the way that you framed it was very, very grounded, so anybody can understand. Because a lot of times, like something like we had an education issue that's going to come out soon, and Scott was talking to somebody who was running for a school board, I think, and they started talking about things, and I was just like, first thing I said was, Scott, I don't know what you said. And then she said something, and I was like, I don't know what you said either. Because there wasn't a grounding definition there. But I understood exactly what was going on there, so I want to be very happy to understand what's going on my podcast for once.
Well, that's good. That's always good.
But I think the ability to take that and make it grounded is the ability to be a good teacher.
Yeah, you know, it's got to be, I'm a practical person. You know, I was an engineer, so things have to add up. You know, and so it's like zeros and ones was my world.
Yeah, but you talk to people really good to be an engineer. Like a lot of engineers I know hate people.
Well, but then again, you went into engineering because of material gain. It wasn't something that you were gravitating towards.
No,
that was my issue. I could never go into something because I was never interested in the money.
Yeah, so. No, that's it. I wasn't a good engineer. I was a hustler. I figured out the solution by making friends.
I cracked the matrix.
That was it,
man.
The code. And that's why I was successful, because unlike most typical engineers that want to understand the problem, understand they love it, it takes them a lot of time. Right. I didn't care about understanding it. I cared about the solution. But
what I really like, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it's a lot of the Bruce Lee's principles is very practical. It's like this practical spirituality. And I almost feel like you are definitely I guess, emanating this philosophy again, where you're bringing in the practicality as well as a deeper philosophy of how things are.
It's got to be practical, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, straight up, it's got to be practical. If it's not practical and you don't have a way to connect to it, you don't have a way to see results
Right.
and measure results.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're like, blowing in the wind. You don't have a ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where oftentimes, like, for example, people talk about like motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we need motivation. And I'm like, I don't believe in the word motivation. I think motivation is one of the biggest BS words in the world, made to sell books and programs. Because I think if you truly know who you are, you don't need to be motivated. You know who you are. You know what you're going to do. You don't need to be motivated to train. You don't need to be motivated to discover who you are if you're right on the right path. But if you don't know who you are, you're looking for somebody else to teach you who you are. You're looking for somebody else to say, motivate you to do something. And somebody else, I don't motivate people to do anything. That's the first thing I tell people.
Wow.
I'm trying to show you the cause of your own ignorance.
Yeah.
So you can find what you need to do to motivate yourself.
Because when you love what you do, you'll just end up doing it.
Well, hey, I don't know. My best training sessions is when I'm not motivated, and when I get there, and I overcome.
That's it.
So, like, because there's a lot of things I don't like to do that I make myself do, like sprawls and burpees.
Sure.
And it's like I'm doing it I'm not doing it because I like to sling 300 pounds up and down over and over again. I'm doing it because, like I was raised, no matter how big you are, you got to be functional.
Sure.
And B, it surprises people when I can do it. I kind of like that. But most of all, it's good for me. You know why it's good for me? Because it hurts.
Sure.
Suffering.
Yeah.
Suffering.
And I think that, suffering, it's like Sifu Bender, my Wing Chun Sifu, says that you have to eat the bitter to taste the sweetness. So enjoy eating the bitter. So I enjoy eating the bitter. Because when something's bitter and I don't want to do it, it's an opportunity for me to gain victory over myself.
Right.
I start every morning with a cold shower, and I still hate it.
That's intense.
I hate it. I hate cold showers. I haven't gotten used to it.
Like ice cold?
Yeah, ice cold. I do it just to beat myself in the beginning. And so then I start the day off with a victory.
When I take a shower, I don't use any cold water. It's all hot, dude.
We're about to go into a break here because our limitations on hardware.
Because we're not limited by ourselves, but we're limited by our equipment. So we're going to take a...
But I do want to say one thing. Most people, the Navy SEALs, I forgot which author, but he was a Navy SEAL, and he said you should always start your day with making your bed. You start your day with a cold shower. That's it. That's hardcore.
Yeah. So
I also make my bed. So I read that too. Because, again, the same thing, because you have control. You're starting to exercise your control.
Excellent.
And
so we are going to take our first intermission. It's going to be a short break, and we'll be right back with the Happiness Podcast. Segment 1. Boom. The best part about this is that I always say, don't worry, we'll edit this out. Scott never edits it out, dude.
Great.
Sometimes the better moments are.
Yeah, the better moments are like usually the best moments come right after this.
Yeah.
Because everyone kind of like had a break, lost their train of thought, something spontaneous.
But it also shows how low tech we are because like I'm literally coming from the camera
Yeah.
to sit down.
It's like it's like when you're young and your dad's like, change the channel.
Yeah. I am the remote.
Yeah.
Like I remember my dad didn't talk to me for a month after he got the remote control. He's like, I don't need you.
Yeah.
So do you remember where you were?
Yeah.
Bittersweet moments.
Cold showers.
Cold showers. Just yeah. So we realized that
San Pellegrino, please sponsor us. We need a sponsor.
Damn. We realized that Sifu Singh is crazy. He takes an ice cold shower, the Wim Hof breathing method.
I've researched that as well, but that's the benefits of cold showers are you can do the Google and check it out. It's quite phenomenal. I think that the way to do it is you've got to layer yourself into it. So an easy thing to do is do a warm shower and 30 seconds of cold, and then warm. Do that as a challenge.
Like the HIIT training.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Everything is a progression.
Yeah.
We want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So and do that for a week. Week number 2, do warm, cold for 30, and then warm, and then cold for 30, and then warm again.
And then just keep working it out.
Yeah, week 3, make it a minute. And week 4, you're up to 2 minutes.
Once again, a very practical way to do something that people would think is impractical.
Breaking
Yeah.
down in small steps, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You have to have a progression. But the thing is that it's a victory over your own will. Your will is like a sword, right? And it has to be sharpened. So you have to make yourself comfortable in uncomfortable situations. If there's a secret to anything in life, that's the biggest secret in the world. You know, I believe that your ability to, Hicks and Gracie's were the first time I heard that, was make yourself comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
World-renowned Brazilian practitioner.
The best.
The best.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like,
the wizard,
yeah.
you know?
Like, hands down, people would say he's the best.
The best.
Yeah.
The best. And, you know, I think in the morning, I have a concept, again, from my book. It's called Arrive Before You Leave. So you want to arrive in whatever situation you're going to be in before you leave. So you want to intercept the future and your future self.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I seen you were you were filming something when you were going up to the Legacy, and it had you and your guys. You said, "Okay, we just got our workout in. Arrive before you leave." And I was like, and this is funny because I was like, I'm probably gonna meet. You know, I met you, and I seen it after, and I was like, if I get him on the podcast, I'm gonna insist that he breaks down exactly what he meant. Arrive before you leave, and this is my time. I really want to understand.
Yeah.
Is it just a mind? Is it physical mind state? Is it spirituality? Is it all three?
No, it's functional steps that you take to set your mind, body, and spirit into the state you want it to be. I've had the honor of sharing this with over 150 elite military police, executives and athletes all across the world. Whoever I work with, my martial artists, even before you guys came, I did it.
Right.
And so put myself in the best state. There's 2 versions of you.
Mm-hmm.
There's version 1 and there's version 2.0. It's that simple. And it's never about anybody else. It's about you and the best self that you could be in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So for example, when I'm working with police officers or military or first responders, whatever, the state that they're in when they leave your house. So we say victory or defeat is determined before you step out of your house. That means the warrior has set themselves up for success before they go out and interact with the world and the environment. If you wake up in the morning, let's say, and you slam the alarm, you pound some coffee, and you're rushing, there's 2 states you could be in. You could be in rushing, anxious, and tense, or you can be in calm, cool, and collected. Mm-hmm. But it's a choice. It's a choice. There's some people who are more relaxed and some people who are not. That doesn't even matter. It's a choice that you actively take part in to set yourself up. So the first example, you're anxious, rush, tense, put the coffee, you're checking the time, you're sweating, you're like, oh, I gotta get here. Now that's the mindset you're in. You're in your head.
Yeah.
You're in your head. You're rushing. Every master that I've ever known never rushes. They're never late, but they're always on time. They never rush, they're never late, but they're always on time. Just like nature. Nature is so unpredictable, but it's always on time. It's always on its own time. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's very important to understand, and you have to set yourself up for it. So I have a routine that I do in the morning that I've taught to a lot of people, and if you guys would like, I can share it with you and your audience.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
So the very first thing that you do in the morning is step number 1 is water. You got to hydrate. So I drank about 40 ounces of water upon awaking. Mm-hmm. I brush my teeth and I drink water. So 40 ounces because your body's in a state of dehydration throughout the night. And drinking water is something that's so important because that will impact you not only from a hydration standpoint, because the majority of people walk around dehydrated. That's going to impact your function throughout the whole day. You know, we're like 70% water. So if you're dehydrated, your being is not in the right state, number 1. Okay? So you drink 40 ounces of water. So that's the very first thing you do. And while I'm talking on the subject of water, when you eat your meals, you should wait 30 minutes before. So you drink water, wait 30 minutes, then eat. Mm-hmm. Then wait 90 minutes after that and drink water again. And then 30 minutes after that, it's time to eat again. So if you follow that simple strategy and formula, you're going to lose weight. You're going to be more effective. You're going to be just sharper. And you're not going to have, everybody has that crash at 2 p.m. Mm-hmm. Everybody that, but they just went to lunch at 12.
Right.
So why are you having that crash? Or why are you hungry reaching for a snack? Because your body can't tell that you're dehydrated. So it's saying eat something. But it's actually dehydration. So when you hydrate properly, that's going to go away. And then if you want to instead of a coffee, if you want to have cold water, it'll wake your system up. Okay, because like SEALs and first responders and stuff like that, they can't be pounding coffee and then like have a crash afterwards.
Right.
So that's something with water. So the very first thing in the morning, you have 40 ounces of water. Right after that, you got to break a sweat. I don't mean go to the gym. I mean break a sweat. The function is to break a sweat. You got to warm your body up. So you could do friggin' burpees. You could do push-ups and bodyweight squats. Like just roll out of bed and just do it for 10 minutes till you break a sweat. When you break a sweat, you change the chemical composition in your brain. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine get released. Those are things that make you feel better. And now you've warmed your body up. And your body's the temple that your spirit, your breath, your mind, everything in your day takes place in the body. So now you've awoken it. So first you gave it some fuel with some water, and now you've awakened it. Then after that, you have to do some sort of a meditative practice. And I don't mean like hours. I mean like 10 minutes.
Right.
Take 10 minutes and just sit. Can you sit quietly and trace your breath for 10 minutes and just focus on it? It'll be very hard because thoughts are going to come, but don't get attached to the thoughts. The idea is that you're just focusing on the breath. The thought comes, you don't get attached, focus back on the breath, and you're winning. So as I call it mindboxing, because the thoughts are the punches.
Right.
And you're learning to breathe, and that's the defense.
It sounds a little like TM2.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's TM2?
Transcendental meditation.
Okay.
Which you don't fight the thoughts. You just let the thoughts come.
You just let them go. And
but you don't hang on to the thoughts.
No.
You just like, all right, thanks for being here.
Yeah, that's it. Say, thank you, not now. And just let it go. Yes. And so you're focusing on developing stillness. And, if you have Tai Chi, you can do Tai Chi, stillness and movement. You have yoga, you can do yoga, whatever. There's so many amazing things out there. But dedicate 10 minutes to stillness. Then after that, then you go have a shower. And in there, you hit the cold shower. Right? Then after that, you come out, then you eat something healthy. You fuel the body. And while you're fueling the body, I like to learn something new. I like to learn something new every day so that my brain is always evolving and changing. So I learn something new, whether you want to listen to a podcast or you want to listen to an audiobook or read, whatever you choose. Learn something new that doesn't have to do with your job, your profession, or anything. It's just your interest.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself that question, what's your interest?
Yeah. And
that goes back to knowing who you are. And an easy way to do that is say, think back to when you were a kid. What were you interested in without anybody telling you to be interested in something? What was it? What did you come into this world interested in? Right?
What I'm doing now.
There you go. But you feel me? It's like at that age, you're like, some people are interested in tennis. Some people are interested in astronauts. Some people are interested in the stars.
Yeah,
what are you interested in?
You know, it's very interesting that you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, but when we had Fresca got a Griarte on, and she's a Bay Area radio personality, and she said when she was young, she used to do fake newscasts about raining in Florida when she was a kid.
That's awesome.
And she used to do a whole long form newscast. And then you look at her, this is what she's doing now for a living. And so, I mean, when you see people say, oh, I was always going to do that. You see kids, there's some kids who want to be a fireman and they actually turn into a fireman because they want to be a fireman their whole life. And that was what they were interested in. And so I think when you say learn something about that you're interested in or talk about what your interest, it's really listening to your inner self.
Yeah.
And feeding your inner self, because I think people are, I talk about happiness a lot, and people are unhappy because they just forgot who they were.
That's it. The happiness is not outside of yourself, and happiness should not rely on a situation, an event, or an achievement. Happiness is knowing who you truly are and honestly expressing it, regardless of what's happening in your life. So happiness is not a destination. It's actually a choice.
Yeah.
And that changes it. And to feed the happiness, the final step is you take 10 breaths of gratitude.
10 breaths of gratitude.
Just, and just, oh man, thank God for my wife. Oh, thank God for my health. Right. Oh, my son. Oh, my martial arts, my friends, the sunlight today, whatever.
Right.
And now when you've taken these steps, you have progressively, starting with the water, that starts your nutrients. Then you hit the workout, that's the physical body. Then from there you get into the mental, that's your consciousness and centering your spirit. Then getting a cold shower, again, shocking the body and bringing you into one, and then getting your first victory over yourself. And then from there, eating something healthy, that's fueling your body. And then from there, after that, the idea of having gratitude and learning something new, all of them together makes a really cool, what do you call it, like a jambalaya or whatever you want to call it. It makes a really cool mix.
Don't worry, we like jambalaya. Right?
So,
Yeah.
it makes it really cool because all those things together will set you up. Now the version of you that walks out the door,
Yeah.
that version is a way better version than the version that woke up.
And that version is the version that's more likely to not be deterred by things that get in his way or her way.
Absolutely, because now you're not in your head.
Right.
You've gotten out of your head. And so, like I say, that's when you're in the high performance zone. Now you're in a state of heightened levels of attention and awareness.
Right.
You've slowed time down. And when you're in that state, that zone, you're actively putting yourself in the zone. The zone is like athletes are in the zone. Anybody who's played athletics knows the zone. You're playing basketball and you can't miss. And you don't even know why. You can't miss. You're not trying. Everything goes in from everywhere.
Or, I mean, even sometimes, like when you're sparring somebody and you're like, hey, you know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna put my jab in here. I'm gonna go my jab to my leg kick. It's like I'm like calling my shots in my head. I'm gonna do this, this, and this. I see it right here. Okay, teep. There you go.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna fake this teep now. I'm gonna fake this teep. He's gonna bring a knee up. I'm gonna go over the top. I'm gonna fake the teep, go over the top. Now I'm gonna shoot in and take him down. I was like, man, this is easy. And the dude gets up like, you're a monster, and it's like, nah, dude, I had nothing to do with that almost.
That's it, because you got yourself out of the way.
Yeah.
And if you practice entering the zone, the goal should be, what if you could live your life there?
Right.
Now, when you're in the zone, there's 3 superpowers, I think, that become available. Okay. Now, whether you're like Laird Hamilton, surfing 100-foot waves, or you're Navy SEAL or SWAT, or you're a professional athlete, or you're a mom, a dad, a CEO, whatever you are, a musician, when you're in the zone, there's 3 common things or attributes or superpowers, I call them, that become available to you. Number 1 is connectivity. That means you are first connected to yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. You know where you are in time and space. You're aware of your body, mind, and thoughts. You're also aware of the environment around you and people. So once that's there, that's connectivity. And then you can connect to people. You can truly connect to people instead of, being in your head, or nowadays, twiddling your thumbs. And so you can truly connect. And for me, this connection, I learned it from martial arts.
Right.
I learned to connect to my opponent. Then I learned to connect to my wife. I wasn't good at connecting to anybody, right? But then I was able to train connection through stillness practice and train connection through martial arts. I'm like, oh, this is the same connection. Oh, I'm going to use the same skill to connect to my son. I'm going to use the same skill to connect to my wife, because I'm going to be there wholly and totally right there with you.
Yeah.
Right? That's beautiful.
Right.
And I didn't learn it the other way. I was, like I said, I lost my hair. I was in my head. Was an engineer. So I wrote a book called Mindboxing because I had to defeat the enemy within myself.
Gotcha.
Right? I'm not only the president, I'm also the client. You know what I'm saying? Like, dead serious. Otherwise, I would go crazy.
Yeah.
Then the next piece from there is, once you're connected, you have the feature of adaptability. To truly, as Bruce Lee said, be like water and adapt. But what's the first thing to that? Is you got to empty your mind. Everybody forgets that part of the statement. So for people who haven't heard it, it's empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water. Because water can crash or water can flow. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Put water into a pot, it becomes a pot. You put water into a pan, it becomes a pan. And water's key feature is this feature of adaptability. If it hits a barrier, it can crash through it. If it can't crash, it finds a way around it. If it can't find a way around it or crash, it finds a little crack and goes through it. But that's adaptability, right? And to make yourself comfortable in an uncomfortable situation is to adapt to it.
Yeah.
And then finally, last but not least, then you can create. You can only be in that. You can think or you can create. If you're thinking in your head and you're worried in your head, or you're worried about fear or failure, or you're worried about what other people think, man, none of that shit matters. It just robs you of your life and your creative powers. We're all beings meant to create. And so whether it's create solutions to current problems we have, or create ourselves in the masterpiece of our own lives, that's the ultimate thing. You're Michelangelo, man, and your body, your life, your family is your canvas to chisel what you want.
And notice the creation, he said, had nothing to do with competition with anyone else.
No, man, that's where everything goes down. Competing is the exact opposite of creating.
So This is great because it touches on all points of holistic development. I don't really talk about holistic development because I haven't gotten there yet, but you embody it perfectly because you're talking about how to hack the physical system of our body, which in turn synergistically attaches to our mind and our emotions. It regulates by the nervous system, correct? And so when you do all these things and you develop new well-formed habits and behaviors, it becomes way to ground yourself, to become better, becoming a better version of yourself. And as you become a better version of yourself, you are developing abilities to be able to create the life that you want, as well as influence people around you. So it becomes like an emanating, radiating effect.
Yes.
By learning how to, I guess, find that inner self-awareness.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better. And I think one of the key things to point out in that statement is that so what helped me a lot more than anything was to stop trying to become something. The word transform into something else or someone else, or I will be better when I'm like this. And what freed me was like, I actually already am this person. I got to just get rid of my own limiting beliefs and the stories I've learned growing up and the things I've told myself. Because when you're born as a baby, right? You look at a baby is a freaking master. The master of all masters is a baby, because a baby has come in and they're happy to be happy. Mm-hmm. They don't need anything to be happy. They're just happy. They giggle and they laugh. And then when they're sad, they cry. But then once that's done, they're happy again. Right. They don't remember why they cried 30 seconds ago.
That's a great analogy.
A baby's a gangster master to learn that, right? They've got it all figured out because they came in already perfect. So like as a dad, my job is not to screw my kid up.
Right.
It means to let him be him.
Yeah.
Instead of like, for example, like maybe your parents yell at you. The first moment your parents yell at you and scream at you or say, no, you can't do this, that all of a sudden stops you from believing and feeling. And then later on in your life, you're going to ask the question after something catastrophic happens, well, why am I really here? What am I supposed to do? What do I like to do? And, this process is ancient. Everything I'm talking about, I've learned from my Chinese medicine and Kung Fu teachings, the Taoist philosophy that's been passed down. And it's an actual method of discovering who you are without practical method. It's a practical method. And you see it in whether you call it modern psychology, Eastern philosophy, but we live in this awesome age where we could have modern psychology and Eastern philosophy, the yin yang together, and we have so many tools available to us. But the thing is that with all this information, we are also bogged down and worried so much about what everybody else thinks. And I think there's like two kinds of fear. So for my whole life, it's been about teaching people how to overcome fear. And there's two kinds of fear, right? So first, what fear does to you. Fear has a physiological and psychological response on you and your body.
Right.
And it can lead to chaos and tension and anxiety and all these kinds of things. So everything kind of stems from fear. Now, there's two kinds of fear. There's a real fear and there's a projected fear. A real fear is a tiger chasing me. That's a real legit fear. Right? How many of us have a tiger chasing us?
I don't know.
Well, we have mountain lions out here, but you're good. I got a gun back there too. So, but aside from being robbed or stuff like that, most of us, if we're not living in like a crazy hood or where some people are living in a place where that fear is a real thing. But for the majority of us, that's not a case, and thank God for that. But so what does the brain do? There's a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is responsible for fight or flight. But there's an energy in there that needs to be expressed. And because we no longer are worried about things chasing us, that energy now looks into what's called a projected fear. And the projected fear is the saddest thing in the freaking world. It's the saddest thing that robs us of our human experience more than anything in the world. Because what it is it's a fear of what other people think. It's a fear of failure. And it's a fear of not being good enough. And all these fears, they're not real. They're in your mind. They're projected. But the trippy part is, whether it's a projected fear or a real fear, it creates the same physiological and psychological response in your body.
Right.
Because it's never not connected. They're all
it's not connected. So it still makes you feel. What's the number one fear in the world today? It's public speaking. Why?
Looking like a fool.
Why? Why? Because you're worried about what that person's going to think.
Right.
So the number one fear in the world today is public speaking. Some people might swim with a shark over public speaking.
Well, no, not me. I don't mind public speaking at all. But you will not catch my black butt swimming with any sharks.
Well, definitely don't go down here by Aptos. This is Shark City.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, so you'll be, but you know what I'm saying, and so like I always tell when I'm giving my speeches.
But it's and I hate to interrupt you, but it's an inner fear. It's not because I had to. I mean, I was always worried about talking in front of people, and then funny enough that one of my jobs was talking in front of people, and so I kind of like beat the fear out of myself by approaching it. But at one point I had to look and said, I just don't care what they think. So what?
And that's the philosophy, and I think that I'm always my philosophy is very simple. I want to serve as many people as possible. I'm a teacher. I want to help as many people as possible, share my experiences, the teachings that I've had, to make them the best version. And so I care about them getting the result. Mm-hmm. But at the exact same time, I don't give a fuck about what they think about me.
I love it.
Yes.
It's the truth. Like, I don't care what you think about me.
Right.
But I care about you. Mm-hmm. And that's the yin yang, that if we can maintain that.
The balance.
Yeah. Or like I tell people all the time, you don't have to like me for me to like you. Mm-hmm. Sure. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
And that's it. And so if you can remove fear from your life, you can honestly express yourself. Mm-hmm. Right. The reason you can't honestly express yourself is because you're worried about anybody somebody else thinks. Mm-hmm. And that's crazy, man. On your deathbed, you're not going to give a fuck about what anybody thinks about you.
Yeah.
Okay, like to add on to that is that when your amygdala, it goes up into your, basically to your midbrain, which is your emotions, and that becomes now to your forebrain, which is your higher thought. Mm-hmm. And that's how we visualize. That's how we think of to solve complex problems. And so when your fear is activated, you're making all these crazy scenarios, false evidence appearing real, fear. And you literally can't construct and manifest the life you want. Instead, you stay stagnant and you deconstruct. And then sometimes you'll take out that fear in another form of frustration or anger. But it's
spot on, man.
When you're able to learn and grow from it, you create.
Yeah.
That's it. fear kills creativity, connectivity, adaptability. It is the ultimate killer of everything.
Right. And I think especially from people from my generation, which I think we're close to the same age. You look a little better than me, so I'm a little bitter. You need some more gray hair on your face.
Tai Chi, brother.
See that right there being all like super black? I'm about to start a rumor that you dye it, but one of the things that my generation was controlled by fear. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, there was fear that the Russians were coming, and we had drills to hide under your desk from nuclear bombs, and then that stopped because they realized that wasn't going to help shit anyway. Mm-hmm. And then we had fear of nuclear war. I mean, there was movies called The Day After. I remember like 86, 87. I'd watch it and I'd be like, wow, we're going to be in a war. Then there was a fear of after the Soviet Union fell, going on further in my generation, there was a fear that we were going to go to war in the Middle East, which we did later on, and that this war was going to go long. And then I was scared of riots, and I was scared of police, and I was actually scared of I was dating a lady who was a different race than me. I remember going to meet her dad and thinking, her dad's not going to like me because I'm black. And man, this was a big part of my life, was a fear of not being included because of something I had no control of. And then I remember when I finally met somebody, a lady, and her father didn't like me, and he told me, I don't really like my daughter dating a black guy. I thought to myself, I can give a fuck what you like, dude. and I realized that soon as I stopped caring, I was a happier, free person. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've known me for a long time. You know I haven't really cared about anybody's opinion of me at all. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I'd tell somebody, I don't care about your opinion of me. But I mean, just getting out of fear, getting out of your own way is the most important part, because you compete out of fear. Mm-hmm. I compete out of fear. Like I'm not in competition with you. I teach martial arts. You teach martial arts. I'm not in competition with you. I admire you. I admire martial artists who have a brain, who could talk, who who aren't being a-holes. I admire that. I don't want to be in competition with anybody. I just want to be my best self I can be. I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I don't want to be Slim Goodbody. I just want to be the best Grover Cleveland Reese walking around. And that, to me, is the proudest moment of my life when I wake up and I say, all right, I'm going to do the best I can. And when I go to sleep and I'm like, I actually did better than I thought I could do. Because if you do the best you can, you'll surprise yourself all the time.
Sure.
And it's incremental steps to bigger progression and gains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Step by step, you know.
Man, this is deep. This is actually some Scotty topic here.
I know. I like it.
Yeah. Like this guy. So
This is now my favorite episode.
Yeah, I usually talk about booty shake and we had the titties rant.
Yeah.
And Scott comes in and Scott starts talking something deep and I'm like, oh God, this is
Torture.
I don't understand this at all. And this is the dynamic between us, right? This is the yin and the yang.
That's cool.
Yeah, you know, like when I'm talking about eating like 5 different types of meat for dinner, and Scott's like, I eat vegetables and I live a mostly plant-based diet. Like we're really the opposites.
Eating is functional.
we're really the opposites as there can be, you know. But man, this is absolutely awesome. I want to ask you about
2 minutes.
I want to ask you about this intermission we're going to take.
Okay.
We're going to take an intermission. Then when we come back, I want to just talk to you about the different martial arts styles that you practice. I was really impressed. You showed me, like, I can't even keep track about how much stuff you've done.
Oh, sure. You got it, man.
And I ask you about that. And then I just went, you know, and just whatever else we want to talk about.
Let's do it.
I'm so relaxed. All right. Boom.
Bam.